Oh, hang on. And I killed the music. Oh, I think we did it.
Nice work, Justin.
Yes, we did it.
Well, I didn't do anything.
What I will say, it's the last day, Bill,
Yes.
of CERAWeek, and I finally figured out how to turn off the music, turn on the microphone, turn on the camera, turn off the 60-second loopy thing, just in time to be done.
Congratulations. Are you just going to drop the tiny mic and walk off now?
These are very expensive.
Oh, okay.
So probably not. No,
throwing them around?
No.
Okay.
I won't.
Good call.
But yeah, welcome to last day of CERAWeek. Little bit tired?
A little bit, but it's been energizing as well. So
good. Good. It's that last day of the show where there's interesting content, but also it starts thinning out. You see people with their suitcases. You see people maybe falling asleep a little bit. It's interesting for those. Obviously, you're not here. That's why you're watching. But for those who aren't here, it's an interesting downtown Houston challenge too, because there's some big athletic event going on at the convention center as well. And then I think opening day for Houston as well for baseball. And
the World Petrochemical Conference is going on.
That's going on too,
right?
So finding parking today was fun. But you had to find parking, right? Because you live here. So
I'm actually staying downtown.
Okay, so you didn't have to find parking today.
I am just with the driving back and forth with dinners and stuff. I'm staying down here. Yeah.
So I'll last shout out on the topics not energy related. Today is opening day for my Detroit Tigers. This does tie to Texas. A certain baseball team started the phenomenon that was Justin Verlander, and a certain baseball team has gotten back the phenomenon that is Justin Verlander. So I'm looking forward to this year. Probably has no heat left, but I like to think that he might. Cool. Let's talk CERAWeek, Bill. You've been talking to executives all week. You've been to this show multiple times. This isn't your first CERAWeek. What's the vibe similarities or differences this year compared to previous CERAWeeks you've been at?
So all CERAWeeks are filled with interesting people, broad, important topics.
Yep.
I'd say deep insight and perspectives into those topics.
Yep.
Right. I think, especially over the last several years, the remit has gotten a lot broader.
Okay.
So my first one, 15 years ago, it was really just about oil and energy and, moving oil around and refining oil. Right. That was it.
Okay.
And there wasn't even that much talk about LNG
it was get
oil,
the black stuff out of the ground, move it around.
Yeah. And then, it's expanded over time to broader energy. And now, I look at it and you're going all the way to the grid, power generation, data centers.
Yeah, there's been more talk about that than I think getting the black stuff out of the ground, right?
Yes. And so that broader perspective has really changed, who's here, who's interested, the conversations. It's really the whole integrated energy value chain now. And so that's really been different.
Yeah, it was interesting. The other day, the CEO of Baker Hughes, he was talking about that Baker Hughes sees their specialty as moving molecules, but molecules being a broad thing, right? It no longer was just one hydrocarbon. It was all sorts of molecules and breaking down those molecules and then continuing to transport them and how do they even cool, right? He said the molecule of water, how are they going to help cool data centers and stuff? So you're right. It's my first one, but it's been very interesting. I did not expect to come to CERAWeek in Houston. I have to be honest, I didn't expect to see a whole stage dedicated to nuclear energy, for example.
Yeah, but it's exciting because it is all interrelated, and the business models of the companies are changing too. So you look at the classic midstream customer was moving molecules, right?
Yep.
And they actually never own the molecules; they just move them.
They just
they
owned the
rent
highway.
pipes, and
Yep.
they have the highway. Now they're signing large multi year contracts with hyperscalers to deliver electricity. So they're having to figure out the power gen and everything, because their specialty is getting the molecules to where it's needed, but they got to figure out that last mile to the data center, right? Yep. And then turning it into electricity. And so I would say that those midstream companies really didn't care about the grid and power gen, and now it's critical to their business. So as the market gets more integrated, having a broader conversation is more important.
Do you think, there's lots of buzzwords that get used in industry and in energy like any other industry? You had kind of this more traditional, like you talked about, which was, we move oil, and then it was we move hydrocarbons, then it was all in on renewables. The new buzzword, if you want to call it, is all of the above. And kind of what I'm hearing from you is it sounds like CERAWeek has either caught up to that or is actually living that concept of all of the above. And energy companies that you're talking to are starting to think about that concept of all of the above. It's not we're a renewables company. It's not we're upstream, downstream, midstream. It's not we're hydrocarbons only. It's yes, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, it's a reflection of the market, right? It's a reflection of what their customers, what S&P Global's customers need to hear about, right? ExxonMobil 20 years ago didn't care about the grid.
Yeah.
Right. ExxonMobil cares about the grid now, right? And it's a part of their business strategy to think about that. And so, of course, they're going to serve that information up and perspectives, and you're really, delving into it with the leadership of those organizations. That's what this is good at.
Yeah,
it's good at getting the leaders of the different things to get their perspective, and then you can kind of parse together your take on what all that leadership is: government, industry, academics, kind of all coming together.
So if we take that, you've been in the industry for a while now. You've seen and you've worked with energy companies and process companies and chemical companies for a large part of your career, helping them digitize, change, improve their operations. I think if we're humbly self-aware and honest as folks who bring technology to industry, we've had a lot of buzzwords. We've had a lot of missteps or half steps, let's say, right? Where it's been, we remember IoT. IoT was going to change everything.
Yep.
And it certainly changed things, but I don't know that it delivered on the big hype, right? That I remember MIT and Harvard Business School coming out and be like, oh my gosh, you have no idea. Like, we'll know where every bus is ever, forever, and ever and ever. And by the way, we'll know where every molecule is, and we'll know where every electronic, and it didn't live up to that, nor did we need that, really. I mean, I think that was the interesting part. We didn't need it. Also, bringing AI to industry somehow feels different. And I'd like to get your perspective, and maybe your perspective is, no, Justin, you're completely wrong, which is okay. I'd love to hear that, but it does feel a little different this time. Are you feeling that it's different? And if it is, like, what's your view on what's different about this one versus all those other kind of trends, buzzwords, fads, as it were?
So, over 30 years ago now, I actually started in manufacturing, at a pharmaceutical manufacturing. Yep. I was an engineer and a process team lead, and kind of lived day to day in the plant. And I remember having process upsets and sitting in a tiny room with filing cabinets trying to trace, what happened and why it happened. There's still a lot of that going on. Right.
By the way, were they the cool ones that had the little thumb things?
Yes, they were fireproof too.
Oh, so you had the really nice ones.
Yeah, they were.
Y'all were fancy.
We were. The data was important.
Yeah,
the data still is important, right?
Still is,
But then the data was in a filing cabinet.
That was the only copy.
Yes, that was the only copy. That was it. So you had to keep it safe. And then I went into technology, and my first 20 years in technology was really around the operational technology, the math, the science, what valves to turn, and
actually doing the job, actually making the thing.
Yes, and what I found is the math's cool, the algorithms are cool, but really smart people would go apply that on a small scope, get a lot of value, and then it would be trapped there.
Yeah.
Right. And as a technology provider, that always frustrated me.
Yeah.
It took a long time to get the value, and then it was really hard to sustain the value.
Yep.
And it was impossible to scale the value.
Yeah, you had a little
exactly. So I think and there's been lots of technologies that have held the promise of shortening time to value, sustaining value, and scaling value.
Yep.
Right, across organizations. They just haven't done it. Right. I think that's AI is the new promise of being able to do all of that.
Yeah.
Right. And I think the difference in this wave of technology is the access to it has been almost immediately ubiquitous across users.
Yeah.
Right. So when ChatGPT 3 came out, right, it was available to students, industry, executives, consultants, all at the same time.
Yeah.
You look at other technologies that came out, the PC, it took a long time for the PC to be.
Yeah, Mark Cuban was actually just talking about this on Twitter, right? This concept that it cost $10,000 to get a desktop. That wasn't something you were bringing home.
Right. And so I think that's the first difference in this wave and the promise of it.
Yeah.
Right. I think the biggest challenge that I see right now to getting to that scale is creating context of all the different types of data that's out there. So what large language models were able to do, what ChatGPT did was use new math transformers and stuff in order to get the context of the information from the information.
Yeah.
Right. Language has context, and and so it can predict what the next word is going to be from the previous words. Right. That's not intuitively obvious how to do that from process data or manuals and things like that. So I think in the industrial setting, there's still
that gap,
some stuff that we have to do.
Yeah.
I think the ubiquitous nature of it is creating so much excitement and everything.
And
that
knowledge,
I think,
right?
Yes.
Linda talked about this yesterday. I liked the way, she kind of broke it down non-technical, right? Which she said, hey, LLMs are trained on words. Mm-hmm. Companies like Cognite are bringing along this solution that makes the industrial data words for the LLM. But, you said it's ubiquitous. If I take that a little further, would you agree that it feels like that ubiquity means that for all the other things that have happened before, even like the computer where we were saying, because of the cost and the effort involved, you had to it was a necessity basically because of the money and effort that you had to go way up the org chart to get approvals. And when you do that, you lose a lot of connectivity. Who does this matter to? Those kind of things. And now it's all the way down to the person who is pushing the button, who is making the decision, those kind of things. We now have this opportunity to not only involve them in the conversation, but actually ask them what's the problem and empower them to solve the problem safely.
And I think one of the super fascinating things is it empowers everyday people to just ask questions. And the more curious you are, the more value you're going to create.
Yeah.
In this new environment of having that. And so that democratizing it down to that level where you just have your curious people ask questions and think differently about how to approach a problem, I think has created pockets of really good value, right? The flip side of that is we do have to be thinking about, security and governance and all of that. And I've seen some issues, some areas out there in industry, just in general, where there's slop, there's things. And so that balance of how do you create a safe environment, a governed environment for people to make decisions with and use these tools, while tapping into their curiosity and their talents is going to be a challenge here as we go forward.
But that seems solvable.
Yeah.
Where maybe some of these other trends, that wasn't solvable, right? We kind of, or maybe it wasn't that problem, it was a different problem, but at least in my experience, we bumped against things. There was like, ooh, I don't know that that's solvable, right? And this feels solvable. So you've talked to lots of executives. You don't have your badge on, but if you don't know, here at CERAWeek, it's very much a hierarchy of color.
Yes.
And depending on what color you are, depends on how cool you are and what room you get in. By the way, have you seen the cool, like, secret color, the checkered color?
No, I haven't seen that.
So I found out. So checkered is your security entourage.
Oh.
And I bumped into some checkers yesterday because the we don't call them undersecretaries, vice secretary of energy was coming through the Microsoft area talking to Cognite folks. And I was like, what's the checkered? But anyway, we divulge. You've got light blue. Yes. I've got purple.
Yeah.
Which means that there are two hallways that I am blocked from.
Yes.
And you just show your fancy light purple and you go. And you've been talking to lots of really cool people over there. What are, without being specific on names or whatever, what is the conversation over there? What are the executives and the power brokers of the energy industry talking about?
Well, at the top level, the themes, almost every conversation talks about AI and technology, and that's a difference in Sarah. 15 years ago, they didn't have Agora, they didn't talk about technology. It was just about policy. So AI comes up almost pervasively in every conversation.
Okay.
Energy security, right? National security of energy, whether it's in the United States, in other countries, right? That's obviously a very important thing. All the geopolitical stuff and how it affects that. And then, as we talked about before, the data centers, grid, the demand pull for energy, how is that changing and rapidly changing? So those are kind of the four themes that I've seen. I think individual executives that I've talked to are really, they're really interested in the how. All right, everybody's talking about this, right? And where's the number?
New buzzword.
If I've heard the word value, 800 times in my individual conversation. Yeah. I was talking to a
Warms
CEO.
My heart.
I know. I'm not just saying that to make you happy, but I knew it would.
Thank you. I'll pay you later.
Okay. But I was talking to a CEO of a chemical company, and he's like, I need to see fixed costs starting going down year over year. Right. Yep. That's what I need to see in order for me to say that AI is, people put together these paper things, come and say, yeah, I've done this and I've changed this process, but if my fixed costs aren't going down, or production going up, right? But he needs to see it in the metrics and the P&L in order for him to say AI is doing something credible for me. So I would say at the individual level, it's really been about value delivery, the how, right? The how from the hype, right? That's been a big thing.
Would you say if I take that a little further, right? Like when you spoke to that individual, they said, look, I need to see the top line or the bottom line, right? I need to see more money coming in the door, or I need to see less money leaving. Otherwise, another day, another trend, another fad. What I've heard a lot, and I want to test this theory if this is the same thing you're experiencing. I've heard a lot on the floor about workforce productivity, but I've heard about it in the sense that is table stakes and just expected. AKA, if you come in and you say, hey, I have a thing, I can help your people be more productive. a lot of what I'm hearing from leaders is, okay, I would hope so.
Mm-hmm.
What does that have to do with anything, right? How are you helping me bring more money in, or how are you helping me not spend so much? Is that the same thing you're hearing from those execs? Is that for them, helping their teams be more productivity is baked in almost? That's just an expectation. You shouldn't be talking to them if you can't help them with that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the first thing you see,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you ask a question, you get an answer. It would have taken you 6 days before you did it in 6 minutes. That's great productivity enhancement, right? I had a COO of a company say, all this productivity is great, but what is everybody going to do? Are they going to play more cards in the break room, right?
Yeah, they're on an offshore drilling rig. It's not like they're getting flown home for an hour.
Right. So the question is how do you redeploy resources, right, in order to do more value-added things?
Yep.
And if you start thinking about agents as employees, right, and so you're adding to the workforce,
yep,
there's going to be things that agents are really good at doing, and there's going to be things that humans are really good at doing. So how do we map the future into the agentic things and the human things and that interplay and the new workflows of that? And we're just really on the front end of that, right?
Yeah.
So I think what everybody's seeing now is the productivity stuff of, I can do this faster and everything. But I think the next wave of value is going to come from how do we even rethink the whole model of how we get things done, and treating agents as employees that have a job to do, but then you have a job to do, and how does that job change?
Yeah, it's and it's interesting. One view that we'll have to look into is yesterday Van Jones was here and giving a really interesting talk about AI, and he said that industry needs to move away from this concept of human in the loop and needs to move to this concept with AI is human in the lead. And it was an interesting way to think about it, because I do think in the industry we've used this kind of human in the loop. We said no, with the capabilities that are coming from generative AI and agentic AI, you now need to be thinking about how are you pushing's maybe not the right word, propelling's a better word, propelling your people forward, right, with that, which ties, I think, really well with what you're hearing, right? That okay, but what are these people doing? Okay, they're in the loop. Who cares? What are we doing to improve, right?
And a word that I've heard used a lot is kind of the human factor that's going to become more and more important is judgment. I've just heard that word a lot, say that humans will still need to provide judgment and advisory stuff, right? And that's not going away. I've heard that from some people. I've actually at one of the panel discussions on AI and midstream, Trey Lowe, who's the CTO of Devon, was talking about that. And I asked him the question, and there was a conversation. What about the people that are just coming in, right? I have my judgment because I went into spreadsheets and I did all of that, and I walked out and I listened to valves, right? And I experienced all of that.
Yeah.
If agents are going to become employees that do certain things and humans don't do those anymore, how do the humans learn about those things? Now, look, I've never actually went and solved the differential equation without a computer, right? I mean, so
you clearly didn't have the same professor I did.
Well, since I graduated, right? Right. I mean, you use tools.
By the way, when we left university, it's like, okay, that was fun.
And so we use tools to solve things all the time, right? And humans haven't forgotten how to do all of that. So I think there's a place there.
Yeah.
But I think we've got to be purposeful in thinking about workforce development in this age, and how do you give them that knowledge during their education and then during their career.
Yeah. And it's interesting. There is a talk about this, and they had a kind of a differing viewpoint, which was coming from a consultancy that works in the industry. And they're asking, what are you going to do in a consultancy, right? And he said, well, our view is that this enables new joiners to do more client-facing work. Now we don't have client-facing work in energy, but we do have machine-facing work, and it's. I thought that was interesting, right? And the industry needs to think about what's the analog, an equivalent to, because I think that makes a lot of sense for them, right? They're saying, hey, they still need to learn all these things, but now because they're empowered by these agents, they can get in front of clients a little sooner. They can, we don't have to keep them locked up so long. And so what's going to be the equivalent in industry, we haven't figured out yet, right? But we need to figure that out pretty quickly. So kind of going along that we have to rethink things angle. As you've been talking to folks here, as you've been talking to folks over the last year, how is the decision-making process changing in who's involved, right? Because when I was running a facility, when it came to selecting digital tools, there was basically two personas involved: operational leader and someone from IT to say, like, yeah, it won't break anything, or yeah, it's not a security problem. Right. And it was just those two people. And really it was the operational, as we know, right? There's the whole concept of shadow IT in your facility. So even if the IT people said no, you were like, and then you went and did it anyway. I'm not saying I did that. I never know. Why would I do that? Are you seeing who's involved changing? Are you seeing more people involved, less people involved? How's that changing for you?
Well, I think first and foremost, it's all starting with the board of every company right now.
Okay.
Right? The board's creating mandates and demanding to know how AI is being used, where's the value, use cases, and all of that, right? I don't think since maybe the initial ERP boom, where it was like, all right, you've got to go put in an ERP, right? You know what I mean? It was just a mandate to go do that. It was a technology thing specifically said you have to go do this without understanding. It's just like
how to do the thing,
right? Do this thing, right?
Yeah.
And so,
what's the thing? I don't know, but go do it.
Right? Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've actually had like chief technology officers say, "I've got to buy technology this quarter because I've got to go show the board that I did something." Right, and I can't deploy it.
Tell me what to do.
Right, and so I think that's been interesting, right? Okay. And then it's really I think. Like you said, it used to be a couple people could make a decision. It's really become a enterprise decision across executives. Very rarely do I see these decisions now getting made at the enterprise level without the CEO involved, right? And asking everybody, is this the right decision? Are we going in the right direction? Because of the stakes, because it's really the value at scale that they're looking to get. And so that becomes an executive decision. The other thing is I think you still have all the technical stakeholders, Jane and Joe, and they still have to sit there and say, this works, right? I've tested it and all of that.
It's not a security hazard.
It's not a security hazard. So that's all still there. But it's definitely the mandate has changed around technology and in large language models in particular.
So if you're a leader at an energy company looking to deploy and utilize AI solutions, data solutions, is your advice or what advice do you have to aid that selection process? Because you have so many stakeholders.
Right. Yeah. So it goes back to what I keep getting asked about, which is value, right? You have to start with, so it's interesting to me that the business objectives of companies hasn't changed drastically in the industrial space in 30 years, right? You still want to make more with less, reduce waste, right? The business hasn't changed that much, right? Now, you get some integrated business models like we were talking about with midstream and stuff, but fundamentally it hasn't changed. What's changed are your tools that you're going to apply to it over time, right? From automation and physics models, machine learning models. Now, so that's changed over time. but you're still trying to make more with less, not create waste, not hurt the environment, keep your people safe, right? All those things are still the same.
Yep.
So you got to start there, right? You got to start with the business objectives and the value that you want to get, because people can get aligned around that, right? Whether this is the right widget or wrong widget, that doesn't even make sense to ask that question unless you're saying what's the problem that it's trying to solve.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's what I tell everybody is you got to start there. You got to think about the business outcomes you want to drive and on what time frame and so forth. Then you go and say, what's the solution to that? And then what tools do I need in order to generate that solution? Right.
Yeah. So let me ask, you said that you've got to understand the problem and the solution you're looking for. You said that you're bumping into executives who are coming to you saying, hey, I know I need to do something, but I actually don't know what to do. Is that where these strong multi-party partnerships are bringing value to the industry, where, Cognite plus Microsoft plus our friends at Radix, let's say, are all coming together? Is that the power of those multi-party relationships?
Yeah, because nobody knows everything that needs to be done, right? So
I figured you knew everything, Bill.
Well, yeah, but I'm not scalable. So,
that's true. There's only
one of me. There's only one of me.
True.
So,
that's true.
But Cognite leverages the technology of the hyperscalers, right, for security, for horsepower to do processing. That's what they're good at.
Yeah.
Right. We're not going to replicate that. There's no reason for us to rebuild that. We're going to sit in that ecosystem and provide value within that.
Okay.
Right. So that partnership becomes really important because we are relying on them for security and compute and all that. They're relying on us to create a capability and to provide a capability to provide context to data that doesn't have context.
Yep.
Right. And so that then we can jointly leverage that across the ecosystem. And then, I think Cognite does a pretty good job of having domain expertise in manufacturing, right? But we'll never have 100 people that know mining and minerals at a deep level, that have oil and gas knowledge, that have food and beverage knowledge, pharma knowledge, the way a Radix can.
Yeah.
Right. The way that a partner like that can, that deep domain knowledge. So I think that's where having all of that come together is where we can serve the customer. Right. Yep. And again, it's got to start. We have to have the common goal of the business outcome.
Yeah.
Right. And have interest alignment across us and the customer on where we want to go.
Yeah. Awesome. So let's let me kind of take it back to the show this week. In Bill's opinion, what is overhyped here this week, and what is underhyped this week?
Your podcast is definitely underhyped.
That's because you're here, right?
It's definitely, it should be everywhere.
Well, and especially this episode, because as far as I can tell, we got the audio right, we got the video.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey.
Hello.
Yes. So this should be live streamed across all the outlets here.
Oh, right? You know what? Yeah, on the big screen. So
yes.
the big screen has been a side guest of the entire podcast. And you're right. We should be up there. Next year. Next year.
Sounds good. Yeah. Make no little plans.
Exactly.
Justin, my friend. I'd say that I'll give a single answer to both, right? Yeah. I think AI is both overhyped and underhyped, right? I think there's a lot of, hey, we need to go do this. Like I said, board remits, everybody's talking about it.
Yep.
And I think it's overhyped from the point of view that not a lot of people understand what it's going to take in industry to actually get value out of this at scale in a meaningful way. It's amazing to me that in conversations this week and in general in the industrial space, I get COOs sponsoring pilots that are in their finance area, right? And I'm like, that's not your core business, right? You're not Jamie Dimon, right?
Yeah,
You're not, that's not your core business. So why are you looking? And it's like, well, that's where we have the data that we can understand and do things with, right? And I'm like, but that's, even if you create 100% efficiency in that part of your business, it's not going to have a material impact.
Yeah.
You're a manufacturing company, right?
Exactly.
You make things. Why aren't you looking to do this in manufacturing, right?
Yeah.
I think that's shifting some, right? I think that more and more people are actually saying, I need to figure out my data, how this is going to interact with people and all of those things that we've talked about in my manufacturing area. So I think it's a little bit overhyped because I don't think there's clarity on that. I think it's underhyped a little bit because I think the value is going to be tremendous, right? I really do. But I think that there's some things that people have to do, right? There's problems that people have to solve, foundational things, both on the human side and on the data side, the infrastructure side, in order to get there, that I don't think is well understood in the industry.
Yeah. And I mean, to make that real, a couple hours ago before we jumped on, we've worked together for a while, and I think I know a lot of things about you, but I thought, I should make sure there's nothing I've missed about Bill's life and things like that. This guy was so nice. He saw us live streaming immediately, went around, and you're awesome. And so I went to my friend Claude and I said, give me a quick briefing on my friend Bill.
Oh, I'm scared now.
Well, no, and here's what's interesting. I even told Claude that I was talking about the Bill who works at Cognite, which there's two that it could have picked up that I know. And it picked neither of you.
Oh.
I picked someone who doesn't work at Cognite. Oh. And the reason I bring this up is because, okay, we all kind of go, haha, that's funny. And I'm like, who's that? Like, I've never met that person in my life. They don't work here. And I move on. If that happens, and I think not most people, everyone's bumped into that, right? Fine, whatever, haha, it'll get better. Haha, I burned, some electrons, and maybe I'm not the best steward of energy, but that's about the worst thing that happened there, right? If that happens at a midstream operator's facility, and it says valve 10, section 3, when really everyone's talking about valve 2, section 8. That's not haha, I used some energy. That's like we just did something potentially expensive, and that's probably the best case scenario. You just did something really expensive. The kind of more unthinkable things can also happen, and that has to get figured out. It's underhyped, like you said, and how people are thinking about it. Now, selfishly at Cognite, we'd say, hey, we can help you out there. Right? I mean, that's what we do, right? That is what we do. But you're right. I think that is underhyped. The other thing, though, that I think is underhyped is even if folks are solving that, right? They're saying, hey, I'm going to solve that on my own. And most people in energy can, because this industry is full of some of the brightest people I've ever met. They're not thinking about how is that repeatable and scalable. I heard one of the majors talk about this really cool application around using AI to predict unwanted outcomes on pressure coming up. All sorts of stuff. They were able to do it on an exploration rig. Cool, saving millions of dollars. Someone asked, what's your plan for scale? And they said, well,
right.
And this kind of loops back to the beginning, right, that you were talking about, where it's like, are we getting $1 million, or are we permanently changing the way we do business? I think that's also underhyped, right? People aren't thinking like they should on that yet. They'll get there. And at Cognite, we would like to help with that.
Absolutely. So, I go back to where I started, right? I mean, so you think about data in context. Well, what does that mean? Well, to me, the first step is people have to have access to the data, just sheer access in a performant manner that they can do. And everything's siloed, even just getting to the data and make it performant to the user as an individual data source.
It's still in file cabinets. They're just digital now.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't always have the key. You don't,
and
or
mislabeled,
understand it, right?
Yeah.
Then the second thing is you have to relate that data to each other
Mhm.
You know, you have to match the stuff
Yep.
in a way, in a model that makes sense for the persona.
Yeah.
Right. And give it context in that way. And that's really, those two things have been core to what we've been doing. And for the first 7 years, what that enabled was people to be able to make decisions faster, right? People to be able to build applications faster. People ever be able to provide physics models or other algorithms faster at scale. So it was still about scale and everything.
Yeah.
Right. Now you've got large language models that have been trained on the context of language, but they haven't been trained on the context of process data and PNIDs and all of that.
Yeah.
And so, just giving those large language models that user level access to all the data is great. But it's still, if it's got trillions, it doesn't know that TT 101 here is TT-101, you know, and it's going to get really confused.
Yeah.
So the next thing is providing that relationships. And I mean, I've done that data mapping stuff in software. You sit there and this goes this and try to build a rule and everything. And having things that automate that, having machine learning algorithms that automate that at scale, then allows the large language models to be able to go to the right data and that you find the right bill. Right. You find the right thing in order for the large language model to respond to it correctly. And it's deterministic. It goes to the same place every time. And not
it goes to the same bill every time.
You go to Claude tomorrow and maybe it finds Bill Owens or me or somebody, right?
A totally different bill again.
Right. And you know, who knows? So that deterministic, the ability to deterministically find the same data over and over again, that is the right data that you want to use to solve this engineering problem or this operations problem or this maintenance problem is key. Right. And I think people are just throwing data at large language models that the only context they understand is language.
Yes.
That's what they've been trained on. That's it. And so, and I'm really excited now. We're working on a foundational model for process data using as the first step of that is NVIDIA's Tesseract model. Right. And so the Tesseract model has been trained to understand time series data.
It's opening up the vocabulary.
Yes. And so, but it's mostly been used for like consumer data, you know, people buying things and stuff. So we're applying that to process data because it's another time series. And then we're enhancing that to understand the specific nuances of process data. And then also overlaying that the connection of the multivariate data with the rest of the ecosystem data out there. So super exciting, you know, really building a foundational model that understands time series. I think could be, you know, you could do predictive forecasting of process variables, measured and unmeasured, through multivariate analysis with the click of a button, because the algorithm just understands it. It's like I can read a book and summarize it for you or predict the next word or whatever. Super exciting.
So we're getting towards the end of today's live stream. Let me throw a curveball at you.
Okay.
Based on everything you've heard this week, based on your experience, it's Monday morning. I'm an executive at an energy company. What's the one doable thing I should be doing to start enabling this path on impactful, safe, scalable AI?
Yeah, I think well, hopefully you've already thought about the business outcomes you want to create, right? But to do that, having been in operations, having been a technology provider in operations, I truly believe that the two biggest obstacles right now to proceeding is the data, like we were just talking about, right? And you know, you can say that I'm biased, but I came to Cognite because I saw that as the biggest
most
problem,
of us did, right?
Yeah,
come from industry,
and so I really think that that's foundationally the thing that you have to think about, right? How am I going to give context to that data so that people can make better decisions, algorithms can be deployed, applications can be scaled, and all of that. And then the second thing is the people, right? You know, it's a lot easier to get people to go in the same direction if you tell them what direction you're going in, right? And so being able to say, here's the business outcomes we're driving to, here's what we need to do in order to get there and everything, and having that alignment, I think is very, very important. And then I guess the other thing is, I hear this all the time and I believe it. You need to start small, show value quickly, pick a subset of data, pick an operating parameter or an operating unit that you want to improve, show the value quickly. Just going in with a big bang and saying, hey, we're gonna solve this universally, you're gonna go slower because you're going to make a bunch of big mistakes by doing that, rather than figuring out the nuances and everything at a small scale and then being able to put that across the enterprise.
Awesome. So as we wrap up here, has been tradition all week. All of our guests travel a bunch, both for work and leisure. What is your go-to move on the plane? Is it you can curl up in a ball and sleep? I wish I could do that. Is it read a book? Is it watch the movies on the IFE? I don't think it is, because we've all seen that, we travel enough that we've kind of exhausted the movies. Are you downloading Netflix? What's Bill Hendricks' go-to move on a flight?
So I get on a flight, I put my stuff up, I fall asleep.
Oh, you can sleep.
I go to sleep almost immediately. Then as soon as we get to 10,000 feet or whatever, it dings. I get out my computer. It's the most productive time I have because nobody's bothering me. It's the time that I can go and look at data and think and do things without, I put on some headphones. I put on a podcast, fall asleep to a podcast, and then I wake up and so it's the most. I'll tell you, the most productive 10 hours I have is on that transatlantic flight coming back from Europe, where you have to stay awake.
Yeah.
And I'm just like hunkered down. I save like things that I really need to think about or write or anything. Yeah. So that's my go-to. Now my wife will say I talk to way too many people in general, and I talk to way too many people on a plane. So I actually had an experience one time where I was sitting next to this couple, and they were coming back from Belize, and I started talking to him, and he owned several businesses. He owned some recycling companies, and one of them was he got all the Lululemon that was returned and not good, and he recycled it into like playground bouncy stuff, right? Yeah, and so that was one of the businesses that he had, and he showed me these pictures of these massive bales of all these Lululemon stuff that they ripped out the tags before they sent it to him, right? Because they didn't want to resell it. And then his girlfriend's like, yeah, nobody's supposed to ever get any of these, but I've got 3 sisters, and we go in and we pick through stuff.
Oops, the leggings fell off the truck.
So it was funny is I gave the guy a card, and I said, I'd love to get that picture, because it was just it was a unique thing, right? Yeah. And didn't think anything about it. Probably 2 weeks later, I get this big box at my office, and I never get anything at my office, right? And
leggings fell off the truck.
Yeah, and it was just filled with Lululemon shirts and leggings and everything. That's cool. So I told my wife, I said, maybe you should talk to somebody once in a while, right? Yeah. It can pay off.
I don't have such a cool story, but I have a similar story. On the plane, I like to, I go into my little bubble, and I was complaining to my partner one time because I was like, this old lady next to me just was talking the whole flight. Yeah. It's just so, tiring. I just wanted to relax. And she was like asking me how to fix her fridge. Like, can you believe, like, why would she ask me how to fix her fridge? Like, why me? Funniest part of the story. My partner looks at me and says, well, did you know how to fix the fridge? And I was like, shut up. Shut up. Partner was like, it was the dad vibes. Like you were giving off the dad vibes. You were giving off the interest in your Lululemon vibe. It paid off. So
have you shared your travel go-to?
So for me, it's to do what you do. Mine is to turn off. So I can't sleep. I wish I could.
Right.
I've tried 12 Ways to Sunday. And because of the safety factor, like I refuse, I know some people say take take a sleeping aid or something. I don't like doing that because while the probability is less than in a car, right? I usually am sitting exit row or something, and you have a tiny responsibility, right? So I don't want to be groggy for that. But to be able to be productive, I need downtime to recharge, and I'm very happy. I love what I do, but like yourself, we're always going, we're always moving, we're always getting to meet with amazing people. And so for me, that's the one reserved time where I don't think, but then therefore I think, if that makes sense, right? So I absolutely get the latest season of Love is Blind, and I'm watching that, or the latest season of Drive to Survive, or right now, actually, my like very specific go-to is Bollywood action films.
Okay.
Oh, they're so good in that they're so bad. Not, I'm not looking for high quality ones, right? I'm looking for like somehow I found an F-16 in the middle of the desert, and I've never flown one, but I took off and I defeated the bad guys, like that level. And I find that being able to do that gives me at other times the ability to do what you're doing, right? So that's my go-to, and I'm quite thankful to my colleagues at Cognite who have found that out and have sent me more movies to put in my queue, and they're brilliant. I highly recommend. Like, if you're looking for something to watch, go on Netflix. They've really been bringing out the Bollywood films. Doctor, great one. It's a 4-hour film about a kidnapping. 4 hours. And it ends with, this is not a spoiler alert because it has nothing to do with it. At the end, there's, the big dance number.
Right.
And the song is titled TikTok is Banned. And they sing about TikTok being banned, and they're in Paris. Oh. Here's the thing. TikTok never once talked about in 4 hours. And the movie has nothing to do with France.
That's
so
fascinating.
Yes, fascinating. Those are the kind of things I like watching on a plane.
You'll have to watch Trolls 2 sometime if you ever.
I have with the kids.
Yes. It's
and we listen.
Have Trolls in it. And there wasn't Trolls 1. Have you watched the making of Trolls?
No.
2? So that's great because it's a documentary, and the people who made it were so serious
about making Trolls.
And so you watch Trolls 2, and then you watch this, and you're like, they showed up thinking they were making a real movie, and this is what came out of it. And so the juxtaposition of those two things, I would definitely recommend you watch the documentary.
Now I got to see this.
If you've seen Trolls 2, watch the documentary.
Well, have you seen, what is it, World Tour?
No.
That was how we relaunched Backstreet Boys.
Okay.
Or is it NSYNC? Who's Justin Timberlake on?
I should know this.
I should know that too, but I don't. Whichever one he's on, they brought that back.
Right.
With it. And so we listened to that in the car with the kids.
Nice. I like it.
Cool. Well, thank you everybody for watching.
Yes, thank you.
This has been Shift Change. Thank you, Bill, for joining us, helping us wrap up.
Thank you, my friend. It's always enlightening to spend some time with you.
I love spending time with you, Bill. I always learn something new, and always something that I can steal with humble admiration, and I learn things I can steal. So I will. And this has been Shift Change, our launch here live at CERAWeek. Stay tuned. Announcements coming next week. Shift Change is not a one-off thing. It is going to be a serial podcast. We have guests already. We've recorded. It's a podcast about the people who power the world, who build the world. And it's about those people, not about companies, not about business necessarily. It's about the people. I'm excited that we'll be bringing that to you. Shift Change brought to you by Cognite. So look for announcements on that next week. Otherwise, have a great rest of the week. Go watch the Tigers play, because why wouldn't you? And we'll also see how the automatic strike ball system works, and if we all hate it or love it. And that'll be a thing.
Sounds good.
Cool. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.